Line of Duty
Oh.
ended this week, and we got revelations after revelations after revelations. I think Luke owes Gary an apology.
Why do I owe him an apology?
Because you didn't think that Roz killed Tim.
Yeah, but why do I owe him?
Because I said she did.
Because you really
you went
it.
off at me.
You did go off on one. Actually, Luke, let me ask you then, because you were saying you couldn't buy the fact that she'd saw off all of his fingers and stuff like that. I think that's where I think lost you.
You spoke about this in your review, which you can read on the website, and it's the one thing I really thought we were going to get. I think I mentioned it in the podcast. It's one thing I really thought we were going to get that we didn't see those scenes. I would have loved to have seen Jason Watkins
Gary
back.
predicted that we wouldn't see a flashback of that very scene.
I'm still waiting.
We normally do, so I was really that was one of the things I was really disappointed by.
I will quickly unpack everything that happened in this episode.
And lay it neatly on the bed.
Well, the big revelations all happened in the classic AC-12 interview. Roz accidentally killed Tim. There was the fight over the sword. Maybe that's why we didn't get a flashback, because maybe they tried to do one and it just looks a bit silly. His neck got nicked. Luke, though, you rightly predicted that she was covering her tracks because she didn't want her career to be maligned. Yeah. She wasn't involved in anything else other than killing Tim, I feel, which you did correctly say, that everything else had been set up by this sort of dodgy network, which definitely Jimmy Lakewell was a part of. He suggested to Hilton, who we all knew was a bit dodgy, that Roz would be a good foil. We knew that he had this relationship with Michael Farmer. He defended him the first time round, so planting evidence in his house. Balaclava Man is Balaclava Men, as we
said that as well.
Yeah, we said
it's basically a network of people who keep body parts in cold storage and then plant people's DNA on them when they need.
I think the revelation will be that they are all Iceland delivery drivers.
It was one of Tommy Hunter's associates who was the Balaclava Man in question, who nicked Steve on the head and also was at the gunman at AC-12. Got the connection to Hilton because of the burner phone. There was several burner phones used when Nick ran Jimmy to say that Steve was on his way. Burner phone.
It was the burner phone that he gave to Roz, wasn't it?
The burner phone that Jimmy used, the second burner phone belonged to Hilton and the third one belonged to Balaclava Man. I want to know your take on this, Gary. And Luke, I sort of know. The whole stuff with Jamie and the gun and everything like that, because we get Royce Pearson's character of Jamie trying to get in Hilton's good books by taking Lakewell off, presumably to his death. We sort of got it all shoved in that, Hilton believes in me, Hilton's got my back and all this.
Do you think it was because he only acted that way towards AC-12 because he felt wrong done by them, and so wanted to show Hastings and co that he was really capable of doing a job?
Because to be fair, we now know that he was a plant by Hilton in AC-12.
Well, that's what I was going to go for as well.
So,
but we don't think we know that.
We know that. If Hilton had brought him into AC-12, then at least you've got this. You've never seen them on screen together. That was my thing. I think this would have worked better, even if it was that Jodie, because at least we know she's sort of motivated for career progression.
Well, that was that we now know that Hilton had two people inside AC-12 that they didn't even know.
In then the aftermath, Hilton's death, either he committed suicide or was made to look like suicide. Hastings was very quick to wave it off as a suicide. We learned that the coroner had ruled it as a suicide. But you could see looks between Kate that she wasn't sure that they should be investigating it more. Then at the end, we saw the wall of all the H officers that they were investigating, including me. And he got them to take his face off the wall, which then a lot online.
A lot of people are reading into that a lot.
Hastings. So what do we think? Do we think Hastings is dodgy? I've got my own theory here, but I'd like to hear your...
I don't think Hastings is part of this, but I think he will be incriminated by others to make it look like he is. Right, in other words, the Section 15 that he ended up under in this episode, which took him out of it, I think if you want to really shake up AC-12... is you do remove Hastings, because you could see how much he was leading things. So if you wanted to plant a seed of doubt with Kate...
he's already done that.
But if you want to take that further, regardless of the case that they get to work on in the next series, you also need to run that storyline. But I don't think in the end he will.
Luke?
Well, I don't think so either, but I think it would be very clever to do it, and I think it's a very risky thing to do it now that Hastings has become this almost superhero figure.
Yeah.
That I feel that what Jed is doing here is having Hastings wanting to draw a line under it quickly, is drawing a parallel to Roz's conviction of Michael Farmer, and saying it's almost sort of double standards now, that Hastings isn't looking into other options like Roz wasn't at the start of this series.
Correct. I agree with that.
That's what I feel, that Hastings isn't... You've got those suspicions, which Kate might follow up on in the next series. And I think the thing that you brought up last week, that they brought in Lester Hargreaves here, the Tony Pitts character, for a couple of scenes, and his picture was up on that wall, reminding you that he's a character, that he maybe a focus. The last shot, which was of all the characters that have been in the last few series, and they said this is a life's work and everything like that, it almost felt to me there's this panning shot. Hey folks, buy the box set.
There's a long gap now, as I alluded to a few weeks ago. I said I'd spoken to somebody at World and begged them for a visit, and they said, well, we're filming next, not this August, next August, so contact us then. And so I wonder whether...
But you wanted to go to Dublin and they film in Belfast.
Oh, shut up.
I've read that it might not be shown until 2019.
Yeah, well, that's probably right.
Probably,
if they're filming in September.
Probably January 2019 you'd probably go for. He's got another show to do. He's got another show to write and cast.
For the BBC as well. So.
And I think Martin and Vicky have probably got other projects.
And he isn't just a writer either. He's a showrunner, so he's there on set doing everything. He's got a long time to think about it, and the public reaction to this may change what he might think about doing. I wonder whether, because it's got so big now. It's almost bigger than it's ever been.
I think as well, what's interesting is very rarely do you get a series which at the end of it shows you 15 different paths it might follow. The idea is that they try and end everything up, and they do a good job of that. They use the printed text on the screen very well.
I forget about that every year, and I remember it, and I was
couple of questions though.
Hold on, one point. Let me just finish this point, and then I'll come off. I think he does that job really well of answering. Roz Huntley was put down for 10 years, etc., etc., etc.
At the local vets.
Sent down.
Sent down. Right at the end, as you say, then it's like, oh my goodness, this H person could be anybody. Oh my goodness, it could be Hastings. This whole idea that now you spend however long wondering about. There's not many other series that do that. They kind of close it, then open it back up again in 3 minutes.
You felt that the Keeley Horse stuff had been finished, and then they brought that back in Series 3, didn't they?
Well, exactly,
Couple of questions for you then. One, follow up on the Manit thing. Do we think, yes, it was just a dispute over maternity pay?
No, I reckon she'll be back.
Yeah.
She'll be back off maternity, so that's a good point.
A lot of people have brought this up. The thing about why did Tim Ifield have the balaclava? What was the sort of resonance?
I suppose there will be that theory that perhaps he was involved in that, but we've got no evidence to that.
Well, there was the whole thing that they didn't really bring in Hannah Resnikova, the whole thing of his DNA being on a condom that they found at her house and all of that. They never really... Well, was he one of the people that the network were blackmailing?
Possibly. But then why did he have a balaclava, as you say? So we got Keeley Hawes for 2 series. Is Sandy Newton coming back for the next series?
I think she'll do a cameo in 1 episode. I think she'll do a bit...
Because effectively, the whole am I still a police officer bit got me. I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
It's a shame that
she's not going to just hand it over. She's going to see this through. There might be a redeemable quality to her character that you can explore in the next series.
I liked her character, actually.
This is what I said right at the beginning, that why I didn't really like the whole Tim Ifield murder thing was the fact that she was ambiguous, and ultimately she wasn't dodgy. This is the first person that AC-12 have investigated. At the start of the series...
She wasn't dodgy.
She wasn't dodgy.
She was being... you're right. She was being set up. You're quite right.
Yeah, she was being set up. All of her sort of ignoring the evidence was that she wanted... she was being manipulated by Hilton because he knew that she was worried about her position. So she wanted... All the evidence made sense. She wasn't willing to listen to Tim. Her crime came after her initial AC-12 investigation. And I think that is quite understandable. Tandy Newton said at the screening, that she is a black woman in a workplace where there are very few black women, and it's hard for that career progression.